Okay, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Leif Bloomquist, and no speakers? I thought someone said they were working. Oh, I have to like half swallow the mic here. Well, you're not here to listen to me, you're here to listen to some SID music, so I'll just explain what that is. So I'm doing two demos in sort of rapid succession. These are just products that I don't necessarily have any involvement with. I just think I'm just an enthusiastic customer. I think they're really interesting projects that other people have done. So the first one is called the SwinSID Ultimate. So as many of you know, the sound chip in the 64 is the SID chip with a couple of different variations, but they're getting hard to find. So there's been a few versions of microcontroller-based SID emulation. So these are pin-compatible chips that you drop in as a replacement to the SID, and they run an emulation engine internally and try to reproduce the SID sound. I think it sounds really good. Purists are a little unsure, but it's a very cool project nonetheless. Part of the attraction of the SwinSID Ultimate to me, though, is that it has lights on board. So it has LEDs blinky lights. It has LEDs right on board the chip, which is really cool. And when these transparent cases came out a couple years ago, I thought that's the perfect combination. I can have blinky lights inside the computer, and I can see them. Plus, it solves the problem of limited availability of SID chips these days. So the newer chip, in addition to all these features that I'll step through, is also much more tolerant to electrostatic discharge. So it's a much more robust chip that won't self-destruct if you look at it wrong. So I'm just going to launch right into playing a bit of synth sample. So this is the familiar synth demo that I think everybody here has seen. The music for which was written by George File right here in Toronto, who released an updated version of it at World of Commodore a few years ago. So here it goes. And so on the chip itself, let's see if I can put this crash it so you can see it. There's a light for each voice. Which is pretty cool. Is this working? No. No? Okay.
Just speak really loud.
What? Just speak really loud. So it's pretty cool as a light show. So in addition to the LEDs that are mounted on the SwinSID Ultimate, there's also headers where you can pick off the signal for each of the three voices, actually four, and put it into some sort of visualization or an Arduino or into like some big light from somewhere else. So that fourth voice, who knows what the fourth voice is? So you have your SID voice 1, voice 2. So on the original SID chip, the 6581, there was actually a small bug on the Commodore motherboard. And the result of that bug was that whenever you changed the volume level, you got a pop. So what if you do this pop sound, and if you do it really, really, really quickly, you can suddenly play back sampled sound. And that's considered the fourth unofficial voice on the SID chip. And then Commodore came out with the 8580, and they fixed that bug, and suddenly this fourth voice disappeared from all the games that were using it. So this digi voice that you use had samples, drum samples, speech samples. They all stopped working. So what the SwinSID Ultimate does is it brings the best of both worlds. You have that original popping phenomenon is recreated, but you have the updated sound. So the SwinSID Ultimate can detect that, and it has a fourth LED that I'll show you because blinking lights, and that's the samples.
You like blinking lights?
Right?
You like blinking?
It seems to be a theme. And let me do the Swin sample. Everyone's heard it. So. hold on, I don't think this is going. Oh yeah, this SwinSID Ultimate has a very distinctive ping sound when you turn it on so that you know you're not dealing with a regular SID. Okay, third time lucky. I just wanted to play the intro from Skater Die because it's got some really great sample music. There we go. So that guitar sound is sampled in Trinity Tab. Back to the other cartridge. So to configure the SwinSID Ultimate, it has a special memory mapping in the SID register space, and you can poke in various values to change its behavior, which I found to be a bit cumbersome. So just to help the guy out, I wrote a little tool that lets you configure the chip wherever you want. So let's go basic. So the SwinSID Ultimate Configurator, version 0.2. And so on this menu you can see the various features that are available. So you can choose between 6581, the original SID chip, or the 8580, the newer one. So the filters and the sound are slightly different, but it's kind of cool because then you have both chips in one. You can switch between NTSC and PAL pitches. So you can play back a PAL SID on an NTSC 64, which is pretty handy. That opening beep, you can turn it on and off. You can control the behavior of the LEDs. If you want extra blinkiness, you can invert them so that they're always on and then they blink off when there's sound. And also, the original SID had the ability to take audio in and sample it and apply filters and put it back out. The SwinSID Ultimate can do that, but you have to explicitly enable it. It was a problem on the original SIDs because that audio input gave you a lot of noise. So here it's an option. And in fact, I think if I turn it on.
Can the 8580 take sound in?
I believe so, yes. So if I say audio in. That's very subtle, but it's, you get a little bit of noise. Oh yeah, and you can reboot the chip. Oh, see, now you can really hear that audio. That's the noise from the audio in. I had to reboot it. So disable. So in the middle there, mute. So this is a really neat feature for kind of deconstructing your favorite SID tune or music, because you can mute different channels. So I can say I want to mute channels. I want to mute digis. Yeah, channel 3. So all that will play now is channel 1. So if I exit, and I run that SwinSID demo again, we're only getting half the notes. One of the tricks done in SwinSample is it will alternate between the different SIDs to get a flowing effect. So no practical purpose, but it's kind of cool to see what parts of which song correspond to which voice. And then when you want to go back to your defaults, you just hit F7 and everything goes back to the factory settings. Which is tricky here because the factory settings are for PAL. So I always have to remember to go back to NTSC so we get the sounds the pitches we're used to here. Yes, Dan?
Is this chip, is it like a total replacement? Like, can I run fast fingers through this thing if I
Yes,
want?
we should try that.
Speaking of that, just had a thought. Has it been tested with like the new demos, like the one that we're in 13?
Yeah, John just asked me about that, so we're going to...
Oh, there will be a demo? Or hopefully it will be a possible working demo.
We'll give it a try and see how it sounds. Like it'll do something. Whether it sounds good enough for the extreme purists, that's
Well,
to be seen.
Like this at the end part when they have the new the sample stuff.
Oh yeah, well, if that's through the Digi channel, then that should work just fine. But we're gonna try it. We have not done that yet.
What about the pods?
And it does support paddles in. I haven't tested it.
Okay. We're gonna test it.
Yep. Yeah, that's important. Yeah, because I don't know how many people know, but the SID chip in the 64 is actually responsible for reading the paddles as well. So a lot of these SID chip replacements, suddenly your paddles and your light pen and everything stop working. So. And the mouse, of course. This is actually a problem with some of these. Sorry? Apparently, I've not tested it. So if we can find some paddles, we can try it out.
Find a mouse.
All right, Greg's all about the mouse. Yeah, so this is actually an issue with these stereo SID boards that are coming out. You have two SIDs, especially because a lot of them have a mode where you can set both the left and right SID to the same memory address. But of course, then the pot, when you try and read the pot line, it just goes crazy because it's only connected to one or the other in real life. So, wow, lots of questions. Yes, Paul.
You double them up into the stereo set?
You can. Yeah, a lot of people have asked for having stereo capabilities in the one chip, but apparently emulating one SID uses like 97% of the CPU. So you can definitely take two SIDs, two SwinSID Ultimates, put them in like one of these like SID FX boards and assign them to different memory addresses, and then you have your left and right. But it is twice the cost. So the chip, so this is made by a guy named Matt Sibak in Hungary, and he's selling them online through his Facebook group. No fancy web store or anything, and they're 25 euros.
Wow, that's pretty cheap.
Okay. Yeah, I thought it was a. Yes.
Do you do the stereo set by keeping your existing SID and then adding that one?
Yeah, in theory, yeah. There's nothing wrong with keeping your existing SID and set this one as the second SID. Because as far as the 64 is concerned, it's just memory space, so it's one SID or another.
I think like the stereo SID cartridges ran off like a 6582, which was 5 volt base. Does this have any provisions for that?
Yeah, it should work. One thing with the Ultimate is it'll work on any motherboard. It'll work on an original 64, 64C, 128. It just takes the 5 volts and doesn't use any of the other 9 volts AC or any of that the original SID relied on. So again, I have no involvement in this project other than I think it's super cool, and I wrote this little tool to make using it a bit easier.
I'm wondering now that it's like this, if you could add extra features to it.
Well, there's
some address space that SID didn't use, isn't it?
Well, there are a couple of really obscure features, like you can create your own waveforms. Like you know how the SID has your sine and your triangle and your sawtooth.
Yeah.
You can upload your own waveforms and say you now have a custom sound that never existed on the original SID. But that's not, that part isn't persistent, so the idea is for a demo to upload a waveform in real time and then play it, and then it's gone when you turn the power off. I haven't investigated that because I only have so much time. And there is and these are flashable, so you can download new firmware and upgrade the firmware on your SID chip now, which is just, wow. Okay, any other questions on the Ultimate? Okay, I'm going to I have to go and get my other laptop and get a couple things for the next demo. So in 10 minutes or so, I want to show off the unit joystickle, which lets you control your Commodore with a unicycle.
Are you gonna be riding?
No, I invited the guy who invented this. I invited him and his unicycle up, but he couldn't make it. So he sent me links to a bunch of his videos on YouTube that are absolutely hilarious. So I'll show sort of the 3 best ones. And if you don't have a unicycle, you can actually use your smartphone. So I'll demo that in about 10 minutes. Okay. Great, thank you.